Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Level 2 recording for January 16th, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, in association with the Lesson 4 of Level 2. And here is my dog boss, Cheeky, who has decided to get out of bed and come to work today. So now that she's made her wonderful on-screen appearance, oh, you know what? That was just a car driving by outside. If we were talking about some reflections in the room and whether it was a orb of a deceased person, that was just a car driving by if you saw a reflection go off in the room. So the Level 2 information for today is all about our higher faculties. It is all about the attention. What is attention? What is the action or experience of perceiving with higher faculties like? I will give you many, many diagrams. So let's start off with many, many diagrams. Okay, so I used this in Level 1, and you can see, let me get to, here we go. We just first go through some images. So all of these images are emphasizing, I hope you can see my cursor where I'm kind of swirling, this area right at the center of the skull. And it's technically, it's at the top, if this is the vertebrae, it's at the top of the vertebrae where the skull fits onto the vertebrae, kind of like there's a little bone that's like a pivot there. And that is this area, where's my cursor? Here's, I'm squashing right behind this image, the figure's eyeballs, their physical eyeballs. That is where these chakras or energy centers coincide, or where their focal points fit together. So we often see, like in the Far East in India, the third eye is associated with this point on the forehead. And that point on the forehead, if you followed it back into the skull, somewhere back here, and follow this in, like from the top of my ponytail down, that is where we have this very critical anatomic aspect of self. So your higher faculties, your ability to perceive non-physical reality and higher dimensional reality, is not just your brow chakra, which is indigo in color. It's two of these organs working together. It also includes your crown chakra, which is violet. And these two aspects of anatomy are very similar to like your heart and lungs, that your heart and lungs don't fight each other. Your heart doesn't say, give me all the blood, I'm more important than you. And the lungs doesn't say, oh, I'm going to keep the oxygen over here because I'm more important than you. They work together. Because I used to say that this violet and indigo interaction was like a marriage. And then I learned more about earth marriages, and I'm like, oh wait, so a lot of marriages involve exploitation and unequal delineation of resources, so I have to use different words. So this, now I'm calling it, it's a partnership, it's an equal partnership. It is not a power struggle. Just like I was saying in Level 1, we're not supposed to have some kind of a power struggle between the physicality and the non-physicality. Like it's not supposed to be like, well, my flesh wants to eat chocolate chips, but my spirit wants me to go, you know, whatever, do a bunch of exercise. It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be like, wow, my non-physical aspect of self loves my physical aspect of self, you know, as if it's like a child or a baby or a beloved pet, and wants to do the best for the physicality, and the physicality wants to perform and do the best for the non-physicality. So too is it with this aspect of higher consciousness perception. Your anthropomorphic lens works in conjunction with your crown chakra or higher dimensional guidance factor. It is not like your anthropomorphic sense of self, your human sense of self, like, oh, I want to look over there, I want to learn about that. And your higher self is saying, no, you're not allowed to learn about that. Look over here and learn about this instead. It's not supposed to be like that. It's more like if you're a musician, you've got this cool music teacher that you're like, oh, music teacher, like, I want to learn how to play Pink Floyd. And the music teacher's like, awesome, like, here's the sheet music, let's get going. So it's supposed to be equal partnership, joyful, not anything that is exploitive. In Level 1, I spoke about what is the attention. So let me draw a little bit here. Attention is literally, get a color. It's got to be blue because this is like the dark blue area of your anatomy. So right now, if I say, like, there's two eyes, and then there's like, this would be where the forehead is, where this energy comes from the convergence point in the center of the skull, that's where your pineal gland is. And your pineal gland is a physical counterpart of this non-physical anatomy, but they're not equitable. So when I say pineal gland and when I say third eye, they're not exactly the same thing. Your pineal gland is still there when you die, when you no longer have chakras or non-physical energy centers. Your pineal gland is the projector of this attention. I'm drawing a tendril that comes out through the forehead right now. But the tendril itself and the energy field itself, it is a non-physical presence. And when you die, it's not there anymore. So we have this tendril of attention that reaches out from the center of our skull. And then we use that as a sensory organ to sense our environment. And that's really, really huge. Because, we've got sensory organ, like we use our eyes to sense the world. We use our ears. We use, our feelings and our smell. We also have this higher dimensional or extrasensory perception. That is what we are supposed to be able to use in order to sense time. And it has been horribly distorted and subverted and minimized from functionality. It's like an anatomy that most people have that is latent. And the good news is that it is coming on board. So again, I recorded the level 2 stuff about 5 years ago, so you can understand that was the context that it was being recorded out of. And I describe all of us, including myself, as being like infants. When you're a little tiny infant, your senses are just starting to come on board. You're just starting to be able to have them be sharp enough to sense the world, and you start to develop a system of interpretation of the raw data that your senses give to you. So mostly when little babies are born, they have very blurry vision. They don't have totally sharp, acute vision. So mostly during the first couple of months or years of your life, people's faces are kind of blurry, objects are kind of blurry. It takes time for the world to solidify into crisp-edged, objects where you can delineate this thing is over here and this thing is over here, and there's a distinction between those two things. So it takes time to learn how to understand our senses. It is the same exact journey in terms of extrasensory perception. As we are all becoming better tuned instruments, like our guitars, the strings of our guitars are finally getting back in tune. And that means that our higher faculties are awakening and they're coming back online in the way that they should always have been online, but we were, subverted for many, many years. So just like being a little tiny baby, not everybody learns everything at the same pace. When we were little tiny infants, some babies did their motor skills earlier than others. Like some of them were able to walk, crawl, run, or crawl, walk, run faster at an earlier age than others. Some little children taught themselves to read at an earlier age than others. So you can have different aspects that you are better at. Like you might be better at, let's talk about what is it like when your higher faculties start to come on board. Different words for them. There's clairaudience. That means being able to hear, clair, like higher hearing. There's higher seeing, clairvoyance. There's clairsentience. So there are different types of senses of the higher faculties. There's olfactory, there's, kinesthetic or sensory, there's eyes, there's ears, telepathy. I talk about this all the time. So telepathy, as it's done naturally, is done on a bridge of love. No extra accoutrements needed. That means no elixirs, no molecules, no, and when I mean a molecule, I mean like you don't have to take a DMT brew. You don't have to like drink an ayahuasca in the desert somewhere. You don't have to have a microchip stuck in your brain. You don't have to have nanoparticles, none of that type of stuff. That is not what is necessary. All of that, what we need, we come here with the basic equipment of everything that we need to be able to accomplish these things that would be considered superhuman. They're not superhuman, they are regular human. So telepathy is supposed to be done on a bridge of love. That means when you grow this tendril, when this attention comes forward from your mind, it is supposed to be done with using the fuel of love. Let me write this word. That is a Greek word. It says attenuos. So the word attention comes from the Greek word attenuos, meaning to reach out. So this is an invisible, higher dimensional aspect of our anatomy that reaches out. And it's a major aspect of us being able to sense things that are not visible to our physical eyes and that are not local in time or space. You can reach out and touch something that lives in the far distant past, that will live in the far distant future. You can reach out and touch something that is not physically in this room. Now you're starting to get it, of course, because with our physical eyes, we can only look at things that are physical and that are local, that are here. I can't see something that's behind my head on the other side of the planet or 10 billion miles away. My eyes can't see that, but my attention can perceive that. I can reach out with my attention and I can perceive something that's in the back bedroom. I can perceive something that is across town. I can perceive something that's on the other side of this country. I can perceive something on the other side of this planet. I can perceive something that happened 10 years ago. I can perceive something that's going to happen in 10 or 100 years. So now we begin to understand that this is expanded levels of perception and expanded levels of freedom and responsibility. Because the more that you know, the more information that you have access to, the more you can do stuff, but you got to make sure that you're seeing accurately. Wait, let me go. Well, okay, wait, I'll go back to what I'm drawing here. I'll go back to my face. Let me read the chat because I cannot see what's in the chat when I'm doing this. So wait, let me see. Joelle says, it's amazing to me how much more and more I'm experiencing telepathy on a regular basis. Good. It's become a constant thing for me to think things right before people say them. Absolutely. So this is very normal. This is what we're supposed to experience. We are supposed to recognize that we are constantly connected on a bridge of attention from ourselves to others. We have never been swimming around in our own private individual kiddie pool in our backyard with not connected to other people thinking, oh, my thoughts are my own and I'm not affecting reality. No, you've always been affecting reality. That's why it is disingenuous and harmful when people who have, like violent or sexually inappropriate thoughts in their minds, and they think, I'm just thinking my own thoughts. It's free will. I'm allowed to think what I want to think. No, you're not actually allowed to think what you want to think, because you can be thinking, like you're mentally undressing someone else or thinking violent thoughts about them. But your mind, your attention is actually connecting yourself to that person. You are not just in a vacuum. Your mind actually affects other people. And that's not even being a virtuoso of telepathy. That's just being a regular, ordinary thinker. You send out disruptive thought energy like that, it absolutely affects other people, and other people are affecting you. So yeah, it is not any kind of an excuse or justification. Like a lot of this society justifies and excuses males who do not control their minds. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help but continually visualize that woman's boobies. Like, I can't help it. I'm a man. Like, no, you got to help it, because that's not acceptable, because now we're heading into levels of disrespect of boundaries. The attention means, and telepathy means, that we are talking mind to mind, and then, cheeky's got to go down. There you go. You have to be respectful of what you are saying and how you are affecting other people. This gets to be very big, and I'll go back to the pictures and show you what I'm talking about. So what is happening right now is all of our natural higher faculties are getting turned up, like a light bulb getting turned on up. And a lot of that is because of genetic transformation. Remember, the degradation of our higher faculties is not a naturally occurring event. It happens suddenly with the human degradation. And it's also because of more light. Light is energy, light is consciousness, light is intelligence and information. And I'm not just talking about physical light coming from the sun. I'm pointing at the sun out my window. I'm talking about non-physical light, like consciousness, awareness. Our planet is getting bathed in more and more and more light right now. So that is like turning up the volume, turning up the intensity of what we can see, what we can perceive in a non-physical sense. I'm just listening to what's going on in the room. I wasn't sure if it was something outside. My dog is playing with a toy. Salu is also saying synchronicities. Yeah, so part of the synchronicities is by being in rapport with the time field itself and being a cosmic love maker, where the music is being sent out to you, and then you know exactly what to say. So someone else says this, and then you say this, and then the TV says this, and then they all synchronize, or the words on the radio are saying this, and you're saying this, and everything. It's like a thumbs up from the cosmos. Like, you are in tune, you are playing with the band, you're doing very, very well. Stephanie, welcome. It's good to see you. She says, Joelle, that's awesome, especially since we are upgrading lately from 3D to 5D. So I have also spoken extensively about the way that we describe our experience and using, establishing terms and how we use language, upgrading from 3D to 5D. So let's say our attention is like the needle on the record. It literally is a needle on record. If this is the shape of your life, and this area down here is like, it's a vortex, but I'm looking at it and describing it as if it is a bullseye or an old-fashioned analog record where the songs go in a long groove from the periphery outward, inward towards the central spindle, right? And there's a little needle that does all the spiraling. That needle that plays the actual songs is our attention. So this is very big. Our attention in our daily waking life is an aperture, and it's a part of your body, like appendage of your body. And it also touches the time field. So all of these are potentials, like songs on a record are a potential, but the music isn't playing yet. It doesn't play until your attention actually touches the record and plays that song. And the songs around the edge are crappy songs. Those are all the songs where you die. You die, you get killed, alligators bite your face off, whatever. They're not good songs. But the songs in the middle and the center, where you get to that song, that's a good song, because that's the best song. It's like Stairway to Heaven. It's where you realize that you're God. So that's a really wonderful song. So what is happening in this refinery of consciousness is we are learning to focus our awareness away from the periphery, the places where we die, and towards the center, the places where we do not die. So in the idea of what you're presenting, moving from 3D, quote unquote, to 5D, what I would say is we are refocusing our attention. We're focusing our attention away from the reality structures and the potentials that would be described as objective materialism. The story of the world that only includes physical matter. The story of the world that only includes the red level of the lasagna system, that does not recognize any of these other rainbow layers of reality. That's objective materialism. That basically says that stuff is just stuff. It's not magical stuff. And then saying that 5D would be more of the understanding that there are all of these other layers of reality that exist beyond merely the physical. So what my description would be to say, like, we are taking the needle of our awareness and we are focusing that needle away from those time possibilities where everybody only looks at the material world and says, it's just matter. Matter is dumb, stupid stuff. And begins to understand that matter is not just dumb, stupid stuff. It's matter that is imbued with consciousness. And that these two aspects of reality, matter and consciousness, are actually totally woven together. And that is the higher dimensional expanded experience. But we're already fifth dimensional beings. We are already fifth dimensional, but many people have not claimed their reality creating capacity. So they're creating willy-nilly. So a big part of this level of maturity, going from being an infant of consciousness to being a toddler, and then one day a teenager of consciousness, I'm joking. It has everything to do with taking control of this aperture, taking control of this anatomy, because it can be all over the place, waving all over the place. If your attention is all over the place, then you are not in control of your steering wheel where you're driving down the road of time. And also you might be focusing on realities. Sorry, oh, I'm so sorry, everyone here. Let me turn it on. Oh, cheeky, hold on. Rolling garbage cans. Oh, the bane of our existence. It's okay. Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. Our neighbor is bringing in the garbage cans for the day. Cheeky hates the sound of the rolling garbage cans. She's actually really good. She doesn't bark and make a lot of noise. Cheeky girl. Cheeky. It's okay, honey. We'll just take a brief 5 seconds. Take a little drink, everybody. Hold on. So sorry about that. I had to just reassure her. It's got to be something about the sound is just really painful to dogs' ears, because she's not the only dog in our neighborhood that hates trash day, because everyone rolls their carts out. It makes this horrible rolling sound and then rolls them back in at the end of the day. So Cheeky is highly distressed by the sound of like rollerblades. Okay, enough. Okay, but everybody loves you and understands that you don't like rolling things. Okay, all right. Okay, enough. Thank you. Hey, really enough? Hey, really enough? Okay, I think the neighbor's done. Thanks, guys. Thanks for understanding. My class is always so wonderful. You always understand if we have a little thing like that. Okay, Cheeky, it's really enough. Joelle, Carrie says, right, Joelle, I think of somebody and they get a hold of you. I love that. So what you're talking about is the natural telepathic network. I use this analogy all the time. So I lived in Woodstock, New York around 2004, 2005, and that was right before they put up a cell phone tower in that little town. It's like 2 hours outside of New York City. So before that time, no one had cell phone reception, and that was normal for like the early 2000s in that area of the country. And we used to joke about city dwellers. Oh, honey, it's okay. Oh, there's garbage cans. It's okay. That's enough. The city dwellers that would come to our little town upstate and be like trying to like make a call, like looking at the sky, wondering why they can't get reception. And we'd be laughing like, there's no reception here. We live in a vortex. And before they put up the cell phone tower, we would have all of these wonderful synchronicities that happened on a natural bridge of telepathy, where you might think about your friend, like, I want to connect with that guy. I want to connect with Bob. I wonder if he's over here. And you'd kind of reach out with your mentality. You reach out, you quest forward, you sense. Where is my friend? Is my friend over here hanging out at the coffee shop? Is my friend over here hanging out at the swimming hole? Is my friend over here hanging out in the park? And you kind of sense. And I had so many magical, what you would call synchronistic adventures of, looking for a friend, trying to reach out, trying to find them mentally. And maybe they weren't at the park, but I'd met this other friend who was like, oh, let's go look, and blah, blah, blah. And you go on this adventure, leads to this, and then you have this wonderful magical thing that happens, and you end up finding Bob at the end of it. And all of that changed when they put up the actual cell phone tower, because the actual cell phone towers have an impediment effect, dampening your natural telepathy. It wasn't just the convenience that suddenly occurred because now we could call each other on the phones and say, hey, Bob, I want to meet me at the park at 5 p.m. Now it was that I couldn't hear them. When I reached out, be like, where is so-and-so? Where is so-and-so? I couldn't feel them. So I sensed a dampening, the impact that the artificial telepathy network of cell phones and cell towers has on our natural telepathy back in 2005. And it's only gotten worse. People who have been developing and cultivating themselves within this past 15-year window have never felt what it feels like to not have the freaking Wi-Fi on all the time. It's like the Kurt Vonnegut science fiction story, Harrison Bergeron, where there's this very, very strong guy, and in that world, everybody has to get these handicaps. You get things put on top of you if you're really, really strong, like they put a lot of weights on top of you. So these are like the impediments that have been placed on our minds. We have really, really strong minds, and instead of being allowed to use them and really like fly and soar like eagles telepathically, we've had all of these technological impediments that have kept our development from proceeding as easily as it should. So yes, we've developed very, very strong muscles with telepathy because we've had all these things that are trying to impede us, and it's been very challenging to try to develop our natural muscles. So yes, my prediction is, first of all, don't be afraid if we lose technology or if there's a cessation of electricity or the internet. Everyone thinks, oh no, humanity will go insane and everyone will take a gun and shoot each other. No. Humanity will not go insane. Humanity will go sane. If somebody suddenly turns off the light switch and there is not all of the 5G broadcasts and all of that, and we'll talk about what 5G is too. 5G is like anti-natural telepathy. It's totally an assault on your cellular body, because your cells, it's not just your mind that connects. It's not just your consciousness that connects. It's every single one of your cells. That's how you do sun gazing. You feed your cells not by eating and drinking in here and in here. You feed your cells by connecting directly to the sun and having all of that energy go directly to all the cells of your body. So yes, the cessation of the artificial telepathy network would mean that our natural telepathy could suddenly come to the fore. So if we had some kind of a Carrington event or a natural or an artificially induced EMP, electromagnetic pulse, that wiped out all digital present levels of technology on Earth, don't panic. Don't panic. because although you might lose your digital photographs or something like that, you will gain your natural telepathy. You will not have to use cell phones to talk to one another anymore. So the synchronicities that I used to experience before the disruption of the cell phone towers, I predict we will continue to experience, and even in greater levels of intensity. So if people are experiencing more synchronicities now, that's really good. It's because our muscles have grown so strong from acting even within this context of impediments. So Lou says, always be skeptical of New Agers and their theories. I think that's good. Stephanie is agreeing. She says, it's all perspective. Carrie says, how do we fine tune or open up our abilities more? I've been using EFT and tapping currently. So a big part of fine tuning the abilities is sun gazing, because that is where that's where food comes from. Food comes to us indirectly. If you eat a tomato, it came from the sun indirectly, but you can get all this energy from the sun itself. So what I would recommend to everyone is get to the point where you can do sun gazing. And I have a whole teaching all about that. In level 1, it's lesson 13. So we're still a little bit away from there, but I do not advocate, don't stare with your physical eyes. I don't stare with my physical eyes. Sometimes my physical eyes are closed. Sometimes they're open. Sometimes they're squinted. Sometimes I put a hat over my head so that the brim goes over my physical eyes. Don't burn out your physical eyes, but do use your attention. So this tendril of attention, I can touch on, where's my friend Bob? So let's say, here's Bob, right? And if I think about Bob, I am placing my attention on Bob. And I'm literally sensing him. And if there's something wrong with him, like if blood is spurting out of his ears or whatever, and I touch on him, then I can sense what's going on with him, right? I do sun gazing with the sun, then I'm touching on the sun. I'm remember receiving energy from anything that I'm touching upon. This is the needle on the record. I'm receiving energy from, I'm reading, I'm sensing, I'm listening to everything that this is touching on. If I touch on the sun, I'm receiving energy from the sun. I'm reading the sun. I'm eating the sun. So a big part of getting to, it's just like if you're a little tiny baby developing in your mama's womb. You can't eat your own food yet. You have a limited capacity to grow and develop because you don't get enough food yet. Once you get born, your mouth is operational, and all of a sudden you're really, really hungry, and you have to eat a lot, and you have to like get kind of like chubby. You gotta get like a little fat baby so that you can grow everything you need to grow. Same thing with getting your higher faculties, your attention online and operational. This is like getting a mouth that you can use to eat light. And light is energy, and it's also consciousness, and it's also information. So before you get this operational, you're like a little baby that's in the womb. You can only get like drip, 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 a little tiny bit of pre-digested food. When you actually get born, when you actually get this operational, all of a sudden you can eat a whole lot more, and that means you can learn more. Now let me talk about the qualitative experience of learning through this aperture. Here I am speaking to you with English words, flapping my moving mouth parts. If I need to tell you about something, I say, this is red, this is what it is, this is purple, this is what it is. You hear my voice. The experience of telepathic knowing or direct perception is nonverbal. So when you begin to actually be born, when you open up this aspect of your seeing, when you develop this attention that you can reach out and touch on other things, the experience is not like having a narrator. It's not like, oh, I saw a thing. I saw a purple kitten there. And then there was a narrator saying to me, this kitten's name is Harold, and it likes to eat kibbles, and it likes to run around. Like, that's not what happens. If you see with your attention a purple kitten, you know everything about that purple kitten without words. You know everything about it. Who is it? Where did it come from? What's its significance? What's it doing? What's everything about it? Significance is a big part of it because this is where we understand symbol structure from. So when we use English language, like if I'm writing letters that are symbols, the symbols have meaning, and this is where we attribute meaning. It comes from our attention. It comes from this level of our understanding. It comes from a wordless level of understanding. I gotta drink a little bit more here. So it is through that wordless level of understanding that we can eat pure sunlight, talk to other beings. And again, this is on a wordless level of understanding. So if you say, oh, Aurora, I had an extensive telepathic conversation with someone where they told me, you know, I before E, except after C, like it was verbalized, it was distorted. And what that means is that it came in through your abstraction, but then came through your anthropomorphic filter and through language. And as soon as it gets into language and intellectualism, then the true meaning gets somewhat diminished and somewhat distorted. So the value of seeing information and eating food and ideas at this level is that it is empirical, it is undistorted, it comes in a nonverbal sense. Real telepathy does not involve the English language, and that's very big. I think that there are some people that they think that they're being telepathic, and I'm not trying to just like be mean to people or whatever by saying this, like they're channeling or they think that there's something higher and spiritual speaking through them. And if you're really talking to something that is telepathic and that is on this level, the conversations are moving at such a fast rate that it is beyond the level of verbalized language. And that's how you supersede or transcend the hack. The hack is repurposing of your mind and your mental energy that happened from the hijackers, the occupiers of the interstices, the genetic engineers who changed the original functioning of the genes of this body and made it so that you have a constant verbalized mental chatter. And stopping that verbalized mental chatter is one of the first parts of being able to emit and eat love. And also stopping that mental chatter has everything, or being able to control mental chatter has everything to be able to do with being telepathic. If you teach a little tiny baby from the time it's 2 years old how to have mental chatter, it never gets a chance to develop its nonverbal telepathy. And that's the truth of everybody who's been here. So the reason why I equate current humanity as having an infantile level of telepathic consciousness is because mostly we do. Mostly the telepathic consciousness has been stopped in its development at like age 1 or 2. And that's how everybody lives at that level. So as we are awakening our higher faculties, don't be too prideful. Don't be, filled with hubris. Like, I'm an adult, I'm a grown up, I know how to walk, I know how to talk. Like, you don't. On a telepathic level, you don't. I don't pretend to be better. I'm like a little tiny crawling infant trying to figure out how to control this limb of my body. What am I sensing when I see something? How do I understand what I'm sensing? How do I navigate the world based on what I'm sensing? And so, I'm trying to say, like, I do not hold myself in a position of superiority. Here, wait, let me go through some of the more of the questions here. So Lou says, and some of the most perspectives in this current world are just inaccurate, if not. I think I'm not sure I understood that comment. Stephanie says, again, all perspective, people are going through their own ascension at different rates. That's a really good point that I make in the recorded lesson. Just like little tiny children learn to walk and crawl and talk and read at different rates, so too do we awaken our infantile consciousness and our higher faculties and begin to perceive and develop and self-cultivate at different rates. So some people might get really great at out-of-body projections first, and some people might be really great with clairaudience first. The capacity to play music, like to know what the next note is coming. Like if you're playing jazz, like I'm jazzing, and I know that the next thing that I want to play is... Sometimes, a lot of the time for me, that is due to seeing through time. It's not just good musical ability, or maybe good musical ability has to do with the capacity to anticipate the next notes, the notes that are coming in the future. And that can be the same with athletic ability. If you're a basketball player or a tennis player, that it's not just the size of your muscles and how fast you are. Some of it is the capacity to anticipate where is the ball going to be on the court in the immediate future. And if you're good at anticipating, then you're a good player. And same thing with like being a chess player, that it's not a physical, it's a mental athleticism, but being able to sense the future. Where is a piece on the playing board going to be placed can help you to be able to do something. So people develop their inner faculties and their higher faculties at different rates, and that is normal. So like if your kid can read when they're 2 years old, that's great. Some kids don't learn to read until they're 5. That's totally normal. So please, everyone, love yourself. Allow yourself to develop in your own unique pace. You can develop your own faculties at your own unique pace. Lou says, I thought we were talking about dimensions. Aurora, I was just responding to the comments. Okay. Joelle says, Aurora, do you think that we are getting stronger and developing an immunity to get through the artificial telepathy with the cell phone towers now? Yes, I do. Of course, it would be a lot better if we didn't have it, but maybe we are breaking through it now. Maybe that's why they have to use 5G. Totally. We're like the rats that keep on developing immunity to rat poison. Now you give them the rat poison, they're like, blah, ha, ha, we're swimming through the rat poison, we're not dying. So I'm like, well, we're just going to have to give you even worse rat poison. That is exactly what they've been doing. So yeah, we're way too strong and way too divine in terms of our connection. And so they're like, well, then we're just going to have to 5G your asses because you guys are still being way too divine. And guess what? It's not going to work. It's not going to work anyway. It doesn't matter if they pour gallons and gallons of 5G on top of you. Let me just do this. Divinity and consciousness and light and photons and the natural world are so much more powerful than their little puny 5G. It's like, it's laughable, but it might not be laughable. Like if you're, a little tiny infant and someone comes along with, some like a fly swatter, you're like, wow, like that could kind of hurt me. But like it's a fly swatter. It's tiny, but I don't want anyone to drop their guard. I never want you guys to watch my videos and be like, oh, Aurora says it's fine, drop your guard. Like, no, I'm not telling you to drop your guard. No 5G, no transhumanism, don't hug a demon, don't love and trust AI. Like I'm never telling you about that. I hope that I'm never misinterpreted on that level. So yeah, they'll always try to ramp it up and we'll always supersede. So it's just like your muscles will get even stronger. They try to squash you down and you're like, no, my muscles get even stronger. And also to reassure you, it's not always going to be fighting against and punching against membranes. At a certain point, the resistance is removed and we can simply use our minds. Because like, let's say I'm like, I want to play a C. Oh, I played the C. It's like, oh my God, it shouldn't have to take so much effort just to play a note. But sometimes it is that way in this world. But we should very soon actually have those impediments removed and then be able to play things very easily without impediments with our minds. Connect with other beings with our minds, connect with far distant galaxies and cultures with our minds, and receive nourishment from places with our minds. There's a dog, both things, both a dog and the mailman going by outside. That's why you hear comments from the peanut gallery over there. Joelle says, Aurora, can you perceive if the sun is still shining? I keep hearing that the sun has gone dark and they're using sun simulators now. Great question. Thank you for your question. Sun simulators are a real thing. There are chemtrails that come between us and the sun. There are sun simulators. There are reflectors and lenses in the sky. All of that, let's call it fuckery. All of that impostership is real. And the real sun is there too. And I know that it can be hard to tune in. It's just like if you have food that has some real ingredients in there and then artificial sweeteners, artificial colors, artificial this or that, and you're eating the food and you're like, okay, like I taste something is real, but then there's something else in there too. So trust your senses that yes, you are sensing that there is something very artificial sprinkles on the cupcake of the sun right now, definitely. But people have asked me this. They're like, should I still sun gaze? Does it mean that I'm just eating like junk food of my mind? No. Because all of what I've learned from my experience of being a sun gazer here in this time and place is that the big lesson, the big takeaway is it doesn't matter if there's clouds. It doesn't matter if there's chemtrails. It doesn't matter if it's nighttime and the sun is not physically visible to me. I'm connecting with my attention, with my inner eye, not merely with my physical eyes. So the big takeaway for me and that I share with you is that this is not merely a physical relationship, the level of red with the sun and sunlight. This is about the entirety, full spectrum, the whole recipe of you, every layer of who and what you are connecting with the sun. So if it's a cloudy day, there might not be that much sunlight on the red layer. There's still plenty of sunlight, consciousness, love, awareness on the other layers. So I practice connecting with the sun no matter what the atmospheric conditions are. And this is also about, being able to connect with something non-locally, because the sun is here and is in our, line of sight. There are consciousnesses like stars that are so far away you can never see them with your physical eye, but you can connect with them through your attention. Let me just make sure I got all of the things that I wanted to be able to say. So here's another good one. So I want to go through what are some of the things that you can do with your mind, with your higher faculty. So we've got telepathy. That is the capacity to share information and consciousness non-verbally. So real telepathy is not like, hello, Harry, how you doing? Hi, Sally, I'm fine. Send me some ketchup. Okay, I'll send you some ketchup. Real telepathy would be more of, first, the hello would be an energetic signature. It could be me, it could be my face, it could be my feeling, it could be my smell, it could be a rainbow, so that you know, knock, knock, knock. This is my caller ID, this is who's talking to you. And then it might be an image of ketchup or the sensation of ketchup in my mouth or some other way of presenting the concept of ketchup other than using the phonetic sound structure symbology ketchup. And then when the person receives that abstract packet of information like ketchup is needed, then this mind over here then says, oh, I've got that idea, ketchup is needed, and now I'm going to reflect something back on the topic of ketchup is needed. And all of that happens so fast that it happens beyond the level of verbal description. And that is also how we supersede the hack, which is all happening at the slower, clunkier levels of verbalization. So that's really pretty big. It's kind of like saying there is a secret code, a secret form of communication that is even faster and better than these clunky mental words. That makes it so that like when I say the hackers, they intrude in your mind. They listen in on your thoughts. And if your thoughts are like, send me ketchup, then the hackers can hear you very easily. But if your thoughts are an instantaneous impression of a ketchup bottle, go pouring into your mouth or whatever you need, they can't hack that. They can't perceive it. They can't take it. They can't twist it. They can't distort it. They can't subvert it. They can't make it not reach its destination. So it's a totally different communication system that is better than the verbal physical communication system. Better. But I want to make it really clear, it is not verbal. So there's clairsentience, which is knowing things without words. Clairaudience, which might be hearing something, but the thing that you're hearing might be a note. You can smell things too. Yes, that is one of the senses. So sometimes you can smell something before it happens. If you're like, wow, I smell something that smells like decomposing flesh, but there's not something dead here now, but maybe there will be something dead there in several weeks. You smelled it ahead of time. And something like that can be an effective tool for guiding you. Like these are senses. These are tools for being able to guide you. I have this written down over here. So another thing is the ability to sense, like to read the provenance of something. And that is big. Like let's say this is an object, whatever. We're in a thrift store and here's like a vintage object. What you can do if you have this higher capacity is train your attention on that object, and you can tell everything about it. You can tell like, oh, this is an antique clock that was owned by this guy, and it went here and here and here, and then it got brought over from Germany, and then it got sold to this guy, and then it ended up here, or a diamond, or whatever. That really matters because as I've been talking about, like, let's say this is food. If you have that capacity to read food, you can tell the nutrients in this, the calcium in this broccoli came from that star over there, billions of years ago. Like provenance, this is where antiques come from. This is where molecules and atoms and energy comes from. And this is also why I tell everyone, like, your body is special. It's more special than something that's just some synthetic manufactured, mushed together thing. Your body has provenance. So let's say you use all of us should do this. Oh, I have to emphasize this. I call this, it's an inner telescope. I use it as my telescope to look at the moon or the sun or Jupiter or stars that are far away. It's a microscope. I turn it around internally and I use it to look at my own cells or my own blood or my own DNA or anything I want to learn about myself. So you can turn this around as a microscope to your food. And you can say, let's find out the provenance of this food. Oh, look, it was grown in a field in Salinas, California. Oh, look, there's poop on here. Like some bug pooped on my food. Like you can learn everything about what went into your food in order to determine, is this optimal nutrients for me? You can learn everything about an object. If it's like, should I buy this object? Should I not buy this object? If you touch a photon from the sun, you can tell where that photon has come from and where it is going to. Like this begins to be like how you be a real virtuoso of reality. You're not just blind, bumping around, but hither, thither, and yon, willy-nilly bumping into things. You're not just blind, and you're also not just a tiny infant. Infants can see, but they mostly spend their time laying on their back, like they're waving their arms and legs around. They can't control their limbs effectively, and they're not in control of their lives. So we are moving out of blindness or incapacitation, and we're also moving out of infanthood, where we begin to become mobile, a little toddler moving through time, picking stuff up, doing stuff, where we begin to be more in control of our lives. Let me get into more questions. Joelle says, I totally get that, Aurora. Wait, first I like this comment from Joelle. She says, 5G your asses. Well, we'll just have to reflect that 5G nonsense right back. Absolutely. I don't want anyone to be unduly intimidated by 5G, even though it's a real danger and everything like that. Kind of more like, we got this, like we can do this. Don't worry, guys. But it's a real issue. But it's like, imagine if you had you're starting to feel a flu or a cold or something like that. You're like, uh-oh, I hope I don't get. Don't worry, guys. Elderberry syrup. We're going to do this. So don't worry. 5G will not supersede us, but we got to recognize it's a very real threat. Joel says, I totally get that, Aurora. The feeling and experience of something is so much more powerful than the language describing it. Yes, yes, yes. There are so many deep and multi-layered things that I feel that I get frustrated because I cannot put into words and share it with another human, but maybe I can just project that feeling out. That's the idea. And we will become virtuosos of that form of expression. And there are organisms that are already virtuosos, like Sasquatch or Yeti or the, whatever the indigenous word you want to use for them. They're a real interdimensional being, and they are telepathic, and they're virtuosos. They're adults. They're really good at what they do, and they look at us and we're all like flailing all over. They're like, woo, like the kids are pooping in their diapers, but they want to help us. They want to teach us. The Sasquatch are very cool. Hans has a question. He says, does the intruders speak all languages on Earth? Yes. The answer is yes, including American Sign Language. They speak any symbol structure that is here, that is language, that's the Tower of Babel, that all of that stuff is like an unnecessary impediment that has been placed between person A and person B wanting to talk telepathically. So anytime you have to use any kind of symbol structure, it's an opportunity for degradation and distortion of the message. It could be American Sign Language, it could be ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, it could be the English language, it could be I'm trying to think of the like click language from sub-Saharan Africa. It could be anything. It's all hacked language system. So the only way to get around the hack of language itself is to go completely nonverbal. And if you're nonverbal, then it means you can speak with other beings that are nonverbal, like on a super consciousness level, but then it also makes it very difficult to communicate with purely verbal beings. So the Australian Aborigine indigenous people, they're highly telepathic. But if you were not telepathic and they were not verbal towards you, or their verbalizations were very simplistic, you would think, oh, what uninformed, unintelligent, uncultivated people, because you're totally not tuning in to their virtuosity that happens on a non-physical level. So, and to use my own life as an example, my Flying Rainbow Lasagna stuff and what I do is happening at the level of telepathic, nonverbal virtuosity. And I actually teach a whole level of this class at that level. Some of the people from the class who tune in here physically connect telepathically. Not everybody does, not everybody can. It's not like a choosing favorites type of thing. It's just to say that there are two layers of this class: the verbal, overt, hacked human operating system layer that I put out on YouTube. And then there is a subtle, higher dimensional layer that's for virtuosos. And anyone is, invited to be part of it, but not everybody has the cultivated attention to be able to see it and understand it. So he says, Aurora, is it true that there is a third ear, similar to a third eye behind the neck, that would somehow be attuned to clairaudience? Yes, absolutely. So it's that third ear, the capacity to hear the future. I think Mozart had that. And I think that really, like some of these gifted children piano virtuosos, I think they have that. Because if you could hear, like, this is the first note in the melody, this is the second note in the melody, it's the anticipation that you can tell a moment before it happens, the next note that's coming, that's the next note that's coming. And you can write a whole entire complex symphony or song or orchestrated whatever based on having that capacity to hear what is and anticipate accurately what is coming. So it's an excellent thing for musicians to have. And I'll also say, so like in my personal experience, my visual sense of seeing these patterns and understanding what I telepathically perceived through color was very strong. But my auditory stuff didn't come forward until maybe 7 years ago. So I was here on Earth with very strong understanding of the visuals of it and the diagrams of it, but not yet understanding the tones and how that relates to colors. So it took my clairaudience came second. And now I'm getting much better at being able to anticipate and hear the notes that are coming so that I can play along with them. Joel says the Tower of Babel is totally code for the human operating system hack. Yes, totally agreeing with you that they did to everyone. That makes total sense now. Pedro says nonverbal, like using emojis. better than emojis, because there are artificial, satanic technology users that can zap something at you that looks like a visual image. So if someone sends you an image of a smiley face that is not necessarily the same as nonverbal communication, one of the things that I caution everybody is go for a feeling of love in your heart. So that feeling of love, when I say love is a tone, when I am in real telepathic rapport with someone, I feel love in my heart, and it feels like kind of a little bit of an ache in my chest, and it brings little tiny tears to my eyes. Not like streaming tears down my face, not like sad, grieving tears, but I feel love, and it makes my eyes tear up a little bit. It almost makes my vision sharper. And I'm like, okay, you passed the litmus test. I know that I'm speaking to something that is loving. Like I can feel that love. And then in the image, in the imagery that is sent, sometimes it is so fast and it is so fleeting. What I'm trying to say is that it is not, they cannot take it and repurpose it. It's so fast. It goes by so fast that these hijackers cannot grab it and like take that image and repurpose it. But be skeptical if something sends you mental images as a form of communicating without a feeling of love in your heart, because there are evil occupiers of the interstices that can do something like that. And they'll pretend to be loving telepathic beings, but they're not, and they're imposters. Joel says, Carrie, I totally saw a video about that recently. The emojis being magical signals from the Goetia demon book. That was crazy. Oh my goodness. But that does not surprise me, because we have to understand that the digital realm is an extension of the magical and intellectual realms that have been going on for many thousands of years. So the battles between good and evil and magical battles have just been gone into the digital realm as the next arena of combat. That does not surprise me. Carrie says, yes, exactly. They're being reinforced a lot every day. Okay, let me consult my notes to make sure that I did everything. So one of the things that I wanted to say was in using telepathy and using higher dimensional perception, I make a distinction between anthropomorphic and abstract. So this is, that anthropomorphic. Let's go to the diagrams, everyone. Boom, boom. Boom, anthropomorphic versus abstract. Here, let's bring this one over here so you can see it too. There's two different aspects that are going on here. Here's the blue. Blue aspect is like a whole big lens in front of this person's face. And then there's the violet aspect, which is what comes in through the top over here. And this violet one, that when you are being guided by this, librarian of the cosmos, you are seeing in pure abstraction. When you are looking through the lens of the anthropomorphic level of perception and interpretation, you are interpreting the world through a human filter. When you interpret the world through a human filter, you have the capacity or potentiality for, misinterpretation, minor misinterpretation, because it's coming through the human filter. So if you're a human and I give you, peanut butter, you're like, food for humans, this tastes so good. But if you're a redwood tree and I give you peanut butter, you're like, why are you smearing that stuff on top of me? That's not food for a tree. So what I'm trying to say is, when you interpret something through your human filter, it is not abstract and universal. The information that you perceive and apply to your life is appropriate for the human perspective, not for the perspective of every single type of organism that ever existed. But when you're seeing on the abstract level, then you are perceiving on a way that is appropriate for every single level of being that could ever exist. So seeing on the abstract level, when you get your energy level all the way up to here and you have an impression that comes through here, that's like a one-size-fits-all garment. That's like that realization, that information fits a microbe, it fits a human, it fits a redwood tree, it fits a planet, it fits galaxy. It's truthful. It is pure empirical truth with no interpretation. Once you bring that information to this level and you start to look at it through your human lens, start to make that truthfulness slightly less accurate, slightly less truthful. It is no longer truthful in every single context of every single organism. It is truthful in the perspective of being human. And we cannot be so anthropocentric. Focused, that means focused on being human to the point of like being erroneous, because there's all these other perspectives. There's what it's like to be a planet and what it's like to be a galaxy and what it's like to be a microbe that must be understood and appreciated. So my big emphasis here is when each one of us begins on this journey of being able to see beyond the physical, and you get to this level of opening your higher faculties and you start to see on a human level, that's not the end of the journey. Please don't stop there. Continue with your self-cultivation to get to the level of pure abstraction. When you see something that's purely abstract, it looks like my dress. It looks like this painting back here. It doesn't look like an anthropomorphic figure. If we go to one of my drawings over here, it would go to this one. If you get to the level of abstraction, what you're seeing, where's the thing? Hold on a second, it's not there. Hold on, sorry guys, oh my goodness. I'm trying to do this properly. Let's find the image that I'm looking for. Here, this one, the one with the black background. There we go, this one. If you are seeing through the levels of pure abstraction, what you're seeing is, sorry guys. You can tell I'm getting tired, I'm pressing the wrong button, sorry. There we go. If you are seeing the level of pure abstraction, what you are seeing is all the stuff that I'm scribbling on in red. You see circles, you see colors, you see vortices, you see the energy, interplaying and going through these swirling figure eight patterns as it moves through these different layers of reality. When you are seeing on the anthropomorphic pattern or anthropomorphic level, you are seeing this figure here. It has a face, it has two arms, it has two legs. I always tell people that I'm a walk-in and that I'm not usually a figure like a woman, like with one face and two arms and two legs. And I recognize that in some ways that's alienating to humans. And in some ways it's like they can't even imagine. What is it like? Like, what is it like? It's like being a bunch of colors. It's like being a bunch of polygons and shapes that move and do stuff, but not having a physical body like the physical system of interpretation. So that's big. Get to levels of pure abstraction where your telescope is completely focused and where you are getting the best levels of quality of truthfulness of what you're perceiving. And don't just settle for the slightly blurry picture of reality that we get through looking through the human filter. Carrie's saying yes, exactly. So they're being reinforced a lot every day. So Lucy says, Aurora, where are those people who are fully telepathic, who tune into your lectures that you mentioned? Are they on Earth in physical bodies? I think I've known only about 3 who are fully telepathic here on Earth, including you. So some of them are physical and are here on Earth. Some of them do not actually have the internet. Like they might be living in very undeveloped or rural places where they do not have access to the internet. There are also a lot of people who are very focused on their spiritual journey and who they have technology, but they're like, I ain't going on YouTube. Like they have no interest in, slogging through the nonsense and things that are on YouTube. So yeah, a lot of them have no interest in technology. Some of them have an interest in and use technology, but so some people tune in to the actual classes and watch the videos. Some of the people do not have to watch the videos. Like they simply have tuned into, it's like, imagine if you hear somebody playing like you just hear music and you're like, wait, I hear music. And they just followed the music and they found me telepathically. And they see me doing the flying rainbow lasagna. And then the way that class is structured is I don't stand there with my voice and I say, okay, everyone, observe. I am moving my right index finger. Observe. I'm moving my left index finger. Like that's not how we run the class up there. I do everything. It is all done by example and you see it. And that level of perception, when you see something, you innately understand it all at once. That is it, is a holistic, instantaneous, total understanding. So if you will eventually see it. When you perceive the flying rainbow lasagna, if you perceive this with your higher faculties, with your attention, you see the totality of everything that it is. You see where it came from, its provenance, how it came into being, what all of the aspects of it mean, what is its significance, how is it relating to you, where is it going in the future. You see all of that all at once, and it's just like if you eat a piece of cake, you taste all the tastes at once. You're not like, first I'm going to taste the flour, then I will taste the sugar, then I will taste the eggs, then I will taste the sprinkles. Like, no, you taste it all at once. That's what this type of seeing and perception is like. And it's similar to also like if you're listening to a symphony, you're like, first I'll listen to the drums, then I'll listen to the violins, and then finally I will listen to the piano. It washes over you all at once. It's an immersive experience. This level of perception with your higher faculties is similarly an immersive experience where you perceive everything at once. And there's no verbalized voice telling you first this, then this, then this. So Lou says, yeah, that makes sense, Aurora, because if one is seeing through abstract fully, then they wouldn't need to use technology for learning, et cetera. I would imagine, yeah, a lot of the people that I connect with on a telepathic level, they've been like parts of schools of meditation. So it might be, maybe they might be part of a martial arts tradition, or might be part of the Buddhist tradition or whatever. Like they're definitely not on YouTube, and they have cultivated their mental muscles to the point that they can do lasagna. But also what that means is like if they've got their own expectation, they've got their own approach to doing things, sometimes they have to let go of that a little bit in order, they got to loosen up. Like unbutton your shirt, loosen up your tie, don't wear your robes too tight, and kind of loosen up and lasagna a little bit. Yeah, so it's just when I do my non-physical classroom structure, it's very much like being a music teacher where I'm showing you. I show you, this is how I play my music, this is how I do this, and then I invite you to participate and share your own music. So it is a different structure. It is immersive. It is first-person experiential. It is all at once. And I mean, you're invited. Come on up and do it. Yeah, let me read it. Okay, good. So I think that it's time for me to end this recording, but I won't end. There we go. More questions. I knew there was another question. So Sarah Jane, good to see you. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's wonderful to see you. SJ says, Aurora, you do such a great job describing that which has no words. That's just a lovely statement. Thank you so much. Thank you for your participation, for being in this class. Thank you for what you say. When I do my walks usually in the morning with my little dog before I do the class, and I'm always thinking, how can I describe, it's like if I ate a cupcake, how can I describe the eating of the cupcake? How can I get this information across? So I always am trying to find ways, like through allegories or whatever storytelling I can come up with, and pictures and diagrams, to be able to share these ideas. So thank you so much for recognizing the efforts that I put forth into trying to verbalize and put into words things that it's very challenging to put into words, and it's mostly more of an experience. So on that note, I would invite and encourage all of us to just get in the experience, but also, I understand that there's a need for structure. Like sometimes that experience, being there, just seeing it all, it's not structured. It's everything all at once. It's like, this. It can be overwhelming. It's a lot all at once. So the intention with a class like this, I call it flight school. Like before you get in an actual airplane and you're going to try to fly your plane, you got to learn, like, what do the pedals do? What does this do? What does this do? So that when you're in the plane and you're actually flying, you're not having to think about all that stuff. Like you've got that kind of learned already. So that's the idea, that we're learning music theory. We're learning about the instrument. We're learning about how reality is structured, so that then when you're actually there in the symphony, like you're not thinking like play a C, like play a D, play a B, play a B. Like you're not thinking like that. It's immersive and responsive. Thank you. Teddy's also saying, I like your analogies and metaphors. Thank you very much, because I do try to work on that. And Jen says, thank you so much. I love you. I love you too, Jen. Thank you. Oh, Jen, I ordered a scarf and it's been shipped. Thank you very much. I look forward to you getting that. That's great. Oh, thank you, says Chloe. Thank you, Chloe. Chloe says, another great class. I totally get that you are laying the foundations. Thank you. Wonderful. So I'm going to end the recording, but not end the conversation, just so that my upload won't be too long. Thank you so much to everybody who tunes in each week. Thank you too. I'm getting some wonderful new signups and new enrollments. So thank you to everyone who's doing that. There is an ongoing playlist, so you can catch up from lesson 1 through lesson 4, and it's never too late to hop on board. Like, don't be intimidated. Hop on board. You can still make sense of things that are going on. So thank you. So I always include the enrollment links. So thank you very much for everyone who's enrolling. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.